Buses, trains, and automobiles are at the center of a major debate over the future of a massive transportation project planned in Boston's Allston neighborhood. The I-90 Interchange project has been in the works since 2014, when state officials announced a complete revamp of the Mass Pike in Allston with the goal of freeing up a swath of land between Boston University and the Charles River to create a new walkable community. Originally, the plan was to replace the I-90 viaduct, straighten out the road, and add a new commuter rail stop called West Station all at the same time. Construction was slated to start in 2017 and wrap up by 2020, but then last month, MassDOT announced the project wouldn't start until 2020 and that the West Station part of the plan wouldn't be built until as late as 2040. State officials say the commuter station delay is for practical reasons. The station's chosen site, an abandoned rail yard, is owned by Harvard University, which hasn't finalized its plans for the area. And MassDOT says until those plans are laid out, the demand for such a station won't be clear. But many residents in the area worry that building for cars first and everyone else later is the wrong way to go. Joining me are State Representative Michael Moran, a Brighton Democrat, and Harry Madison, an Allston resident and member of the I-90 Allston Interchange Task Force. Thank you both for being here. So let me ask, you represent Allston and live nearby in Brighton. You are an Allston resident, deeply involved in neighborhood affairs. I get why you guys care about what happens with this new neighborhood, but why should non-locals care about transportation being revamped and this whole new neighborhood being built from scratch?
Well, you're looking at, in total, about 130 acres of land when you add the Sears and Roebuck and the old Beacon Yards together. When you put that together with one owner, which is Harvard University, and sitting it on a rail line, which is now a commuter rail line, the chances of this failing are nil, and the chances of success are huge. And they get even better when you actually put a reliable rail service on there so people can get there, get to other places. It's the right mixture of things, and to not do it is really foolhardy. And
not do it the right way. You, when we were talking earlier, Harry, used the phrase, I think you called it the aorta of the Boston transportation infrastructure. Am I remembering right?
Yeah, Adam. I mean, 250,000 people a day drive through Allston or take the train between the Mass Pike, Storrow Drive, and the commuter rail. This is a $1 billion project that is going to, they say, take 6 years of construction.
I'm glad you mentioned that, because a lot of taxpayer money, too.
Absolutely. So this is going to affect really hundreds of thousands of people every day, as well as, being a huge issue from the state's budget.
Right. And I should note, by the way, I drive this stretch every day on the way to and from work to get here to Brighton from the North Shore. One concern that I've seen expressed a lot on social media, in articles about this over the past few months, is that this delay in building West Station is the goal, by the way, set me straight on this, because I was looking through the state's last filing and I couldn't come up with a clear answer. Is the goal to start building it in 2040 or to wrap it up by 2040?
See, when I heard 2040, I didn't hear 2040. I heard never.
Never, right. Well, that's a reasonable, yeah.
2040, why not call it 2080? I mean, at that point in time, I'll be 70.
Yeah.
Lord knows if I'll even have my memory. But, it's just that far out, you can't. They may as well just say never.
A concern, in addition to that I've heard, is that if you don't build the station into the neighborhood at the outset, if you say we're going to tack it on later, whether you do or not, that it's going to fundamentally change the way the neighborhood is constructed. Why is that a fear that people have?
Well, we have a perfect example right outside your door. When you do transportation, significant investment in public transportation, you get better projects. They put the Boston Landing commuter rail stop out here. What happened? Bose is moving here. The Celtics have moved here in their practice facility. New Balance is the world headquarters here. The Boston Bruins is practice facilities here. You have better projects because the transportation's there already. To do the transportation, last, really, that's short-sighted, very short-sighted.
Harry, do you think that somehow the neighborhood would be different if the commuter rail station is tacked on down the road as opposed to built from the beginning? Will it change the way the streets look and feel? Will it change infrastructure for bikes, infrastructure for pedestrians, that sort of thing?
Right now, there's already too much traffic. You experience it on your commute. Again, everyone who's sitting backed up on the Mass Pike or on Cambridge Street or Storrow Drive, wasting their lives, already knows that we have a traffic problem today. It's only getting worse, and we need to build transit, better bus routes and better rail really as soon as we can. So even if Harvard weren't going to build 7 million square feet of new construction, our region needs better transportation right now, and that's for people in Worcester, Framingham, trying to get to Kendall Square, North Point, North Station. This is a big regional problem that we have.
Keep Kendall Square and North Station in mind, because I want to ask a self-interested question about that in a second. When Governor Patrick, former Governor Patrick, rolled out this announcement about West Station back in 2014, he said it was going to be built in 2020. Baker says 2040, which makes you think never. Is it possible that Governor Patrick, he was being very ambitious in the latter days of his governorship, especially when it came to transportation stuff. Did he maybe set an unrealistic expectation by saying we're going to build this thing and wrap it up by 2020?
Absolutely.
He did?
No doubt about it. Because to do something as late as he did in his term, second term, less than a year to go, not knowing who was going to take over the reins next. I applaud him for doing it, though, because you have to force discussion on this stuff. Nobody wants to invest in public transportation. I don't know why, but they don't. In this situation, you have a perfect public-private partnership. Harvard has agreed to pay for a third of this. Boston University has agreed to pay some.
But they backed off a little, right? And the cost keeps going up.
Well, they haven't backed off their initial number, which is a little over $8 million, because the station then was about $28 million, and they were going to pay a third of that. Harvard has not backed off of paying a third of the total cost of the transportation. My point is that when you have private corporations or nonprofits or whatever you want to call Harvard and BU together, willing to pony up 40% of the cost, why wouldn't you build it? It just doesn't make sense. Oh, but worse yet, why would you build anything less than the best if you have that kind of investment coming in from the private sector? We
did ask MassDOT to come on, send someone on the show to join you guys. They were not able to provide a guest, but they did give us a statement, which I want to read now. And then, Harry, I want to get your reaction to this. The MassDOT statement was, before new jobs and new residents arrive in the immediate vicinity of a future station, travel demand for the proposed West Station is unknown. Data collected indicate the station is not needed to mitigate the traffic impacts. MassDOT hopes and expects to receive robust public comments and looks forward to continuing to refine the design with public input. Please note that the Allston neighborhood today is served by a new MBTA commuter rail station at Boston Landing, which you mentioned a moment ago, Rep., and MBTA bus routes. That's from spokesman Patrick Morgan. Harry, what do you think of that? Any valid points there?
And I think that we need more transit. That, yeah, there's the 66 bus, and everyone knows that it's packed to the gills and unreliable. There's the 70 bus, which is probably even worse. If you want to encourage development and encourage the right kind of transit-oriented development, this is a sort of question about leadership and vision for what kind of society we're trying to build.
Back when Governor Patrick rolled this out in 2014, I remember getting very excited because I was working here at the time. I have trouble. I live 2 blocks away from a North Shore commuter rail line, but it takes me an hour and 45 minutes to get here by public transit. There was talk of these diesel multiple units, new connections running from West Station to Kendall Square, and North Station sort of helping to knit together the state's transit infrastructure. As far as I can tell, that's now totally gone from this delayed West Station plan that the state has. Am I right about that?
It hasn't been. It's sort of lost in the discussion, and I would also say that has something to do with the switching of administrations. You can't carry everything over. What's disheartening for us in this community is that, we have huge players around here. We have the state, obviously, is a huge player. And we have Harvard University, and to a lesser degree, you have Boston University. The single biggest beneficiary of the Pike straightening in this commuter rail stop will be Harvard University. The Pike straightening opens up almost 100 acres of land that they can develop that they couldn't develop before this. Right now, it's incumbent upon us, me as the elected official, my friends and neighbors that I represent, to keep the pressure on Harvard certainly, that they make this a priority in phase 1, and keep the pressure on the state so that they see that this is something that we need to do.
All right. We have to leave it there, unfortunately, Harry. Sorry. We'll talk to you guys again down the road about this because this story is going to be here for a while. State Rep Mike Moran, Harry Madison, thank you.